So, a long time ago in the 1900s, there was a more or less controversial writer, and due to that, it was hard for her to get her books published. But finally, in 1962, Madeline L'Engle published A Wrinkle in Time. Despite being published about 60 years ago, there are many people who love and thoroughly enjoy this book. I am not one of those people. So let's start with the characters. There's about 10 main characters, and they all have one dimensional personalities. Meg is the angry 12-year-old. Charles Wallace is the brainy toddler. Calvin is literally just a support character. Mr. Murray is the sensible, skinny scientist dad. The three old ladies are spirits that guide the kids and drive the plot. It is the most basic of villains that barely has a motive. The only enjoyable characters are Aunt Beast and the man with the red eyes. On another note of the characters, the romance between Meg and Calvin is stupid. It's that kind of predictably awful romance where the characters have no chemistry and the author forces them together. Bonus point if they met 3 minutes ago. And I think that if it was executed or removed entirely, it could have been better. In fact, the best way it could have been done was if it was just two best friends supporting each other. I'll give the benefit of my doubt and say that the romance might work if the characters were more fleshed out and got more moments alone with each other. On the note of characters spending more time with each other, the scenes of the book aren't fleshed out enough either. At points, the scenes feel janky, and I'll explain with a brief summary of Chapter 7. The kids walk in a room and meet the man with the red eyes. They begin talking, and barely 10 seconds later, Charles Wallace has willingly let his mind be consumed by the man. Meg reacts very quickly to that and tackles him. Then, they get on the topic of food, and the man brings in a whole table full of a Thanksgiving feast. To Charles, the food is sand. Despite talking about not making decisions on an empty stomach, Charles lets his mind get taken over and he becomes a carbon copy of everyone else on the planet. Then he goes back to eating the food and thinks it's good. This all happens in the span of 18 pages, at least in the version of the book that I have. The entire book moves at the speed of light, so you barely have time to decipher what's happened before you're thrust into more conflict. Said conflict is a speck of dust in comparison to my hatred of this book. Oh, speaking of hatred, that's the only thing that the main villain, it is. The all powerful being of mass negativity that has controlled an entire planet and probably many more is just an effing brain that sits on a pedestal and thinks mean thoughts. It's not even good at being a villain. Mr. Murray was a prisoner on the planet for 5 years, and during that time, guess what it does to him? I'll start by telling you what it doesn't do. It doesn't fully convert him into a citizen of Camazotz, it doesn't kill him, it doesn't force him to do anything. Instead, it holds him in a glass tube and does the bare minimum to make him like the people on Camazotz. Now, I mean, I get that he never fully opened his mind to it, but surely he could have been changed in 5 years. 5 years is a long time. My friend Ray could beat Sonic Forces 21,900 times in the span of 5 years. I could probably beat all 11 Ace Attorney games in the span of 5 years. He also wasn't even psychologically damaged either, which is what's most surprising to me. According to hostageus.org, it states that post traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, can occur after you have been through a traumatic event such as a kidnapping. Mr. Murray was locked away for 5 years, so I am 99.9% sure that he would have to have some PTSD. Anything, really. But nope, he is fine mentally. In fact, he doesn't have a single moment of weakness. The only character in this book that has a mental breakdown is Meg. It's an awful trope of ye olden days to make only women have emotional reactions to things. Speaking of ye olden days, I know that this book was written back then, and I understand that at the time the concepts it had were new enough, but today everything that happens in A Wrinkle in Time are things that have been done 5 billion times and just takes us back to a time that was still full of misogyny and hurtful stereotypes. As a side note, I'm not going to touch on the religious aspect because 1, I'm not religious, and 2, I don't want to offend people's religious views. So, in conclusion, A Wrinkle in Time is an at best mediocre book with hurtful stereotypes, one dimensional characters, and a plot that hasn't withstood the test of time. Until next time, smudge out.